Hey, I'm Louie Palmer and welcome to playbetterdrums.com and welcome to lesson 2 of the foundation course. So last week we dealt a little bit with the left foot hi-hat independence, quarter notes, eighth notes, etc. against grooves and fills and general vocab. So we're going to help your left foot independence a little bit more by going to some more complex hand and foot combinations against quarter notes, because we're going to be dealing with 16th notes, so we're going to stick with quarter notes with the hi-hat but keep it going at all times. And there's a couple of different advantages to practicing these patterns that we're about to do. One is that you'll get a ton of different vocabulary ideas and little chunks of vocabulary, words basically, to form bigger sentences and do bigger fills. It'll improve your movement around the drums because we're going to be using toms and snare drum, etc. And orchestrating randomly. And it'll also improve your right foot greatly. If you practice this for long periods of time, your right foot will improve no end. It's a great right foot workout. So the patterns themselves are very simple. We've probably all played them a million times. We're going to be doing right, left, foot, 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 right, left. So swapping them upside down. And then we're going to add 4 hands, 2 feet, right, left, foot, foot, which is going to act as the turnaround between the first two. So they're very simple, but they're part of a bigger exercise which will be covered in the second lesson. We're going to spread this across 2 lessons, and how we displace those 2 hands, 2 feet across the bar and come up with a bunch of different variations, and then learn to put them all together and switch between each one, which is a lot more difficult than it sounds. But although they're very simple, as with everything to do with this foundation course, it's about the level of execution. So it's not about how complex something is, it's how well it's played. So I think often simple things sound better, just played really well. So we're going to be concentrating on the dynamics, the sound you get from the snare drum. So I'm going to be playing rim shots on every right and left hand I play when I play these around the drums. But it's not going to be super loud. It's not going to be louder than the toms. It's going to be a nice rim shot sound where the stick's in the middle of the drum. A lot of drummers will kind of get an ugly rim shot sound if you play too far back. And also it's difficult to phrase the right foot correctly. A lot of drummers will play these patterns, but the right foot is rushing. You know, the 2 notes will be too close together or it'll be too loud. So it's really kind of like, if you think of it like a mixing desk with the faders, you know, each limb is a fader and you've got to kind of create a nice mix basically. So let's get to the first pattern, very simple, right, left, foot, foot. And then we're going to swap it and go foot, foot, right, left. And the way I think of all these variations, the way I remember them, and when I'm playing them, how I'm keeping track of where I am, is just that you've got to work out what limb or what hand or whatever falls with the left foot, which is the quarter note and the pulse. So the first one is going to be the right hand, and then the upside down one is going to be the first foot. And then we have the 4 notes, 4 hands, 2 feet as the turnaround. And I'll play all these 3 patterns as separate patterns, and then we'll discuss how we're going to put them together. So the first thing to do is practice them like that, as separate exercises for longer periods of time than that. So stick with one for a long time and make sure you're concentrating on the sound. Make sure it's lining up with the hi-hat. That's a super important thing, especially on the one where we're putting the first foot with the hi-hat. That's a lot more difficult than it sounds to do, to make it sound nice and to line up that first foot with the hi-hat correctly. And then we want to put them together. So you want to stick with the first one, right, left, foot, foot, and then throw in the 1, 4, basically. That's the way I think of it. So we're thinking of the hands first. So we're doing 2 hands, 2 feet, and I'll throw in a 4, right, left, foot, foot, and that will switch me to the upside down one, and then I'll carry on with the upside down one for a while until I'm ready, and then I'll throw in the 4 hands again, and that will swap us back to the original pattern. So the next thing we want to try is splitting the hands between different drums. So right now I was going through cycles down and up the toms. So now we want to split the hands between drums and try and be random and just improvise and come up with some interesting patterns. Okay, so right now it's kind of all at the same dynamic level. I'm playing rim shots at all times. So now we want to add some dynamics. So sometimes I'll play a quiet right hand and a loud left hand, which is kind of cool because the right hand's on the one and the left hand's not, so the left hand will stick out a little bit more. Other times I'll swap that round and play a loud right hand and a quiet left hand, and just try and mix that up randomly with the splitting of the notes between drums. And then of course also doing what we were doing before, maybe doing up and down and two hands per drum. So put those all together. So the next thing we want to do is change the leading hand. So I'm just sticking with the right, left, foot pattern for now, the first one, and then making all these changes. So we've added some dynamics a little bit, and now we'll swap the leading hand. So we'll go right, left, foot, left, right, foot. And you can alternate between those. So keep going right, left, right, left, right. Or you can just throw in a left, right, swap the leading hand at any time. So first I'll do the alternating one, and then I'll improvise a little bit and switch it around. So a couple of times there I kept going with the left, right, foot. So swapping the leading hand to the left, but keep going with the left, right. It kind of sounds a little different. So if I was to do right, left, it sounds like this when I was doing the floor tom snare drum thing. And then if I swap it around. So that can sound cool, but it's again another one of those things that's more difficult than it sounds. A lot of drummers will be right hand heavy and leading with the left hand they find more difficult, and it's gonna not sound so good. Things will start to shift a little bit, maybe not line up as well with the left foot, and maybe that affects the right foot. So it's another thing to think about. So that was just the right, left, foot. We can get all those different variations by changing the leading hand, by adding some dynamics, and by orchestrating interestingly. So then we're obviously, if you're practicing this, you want to do the same thing with the other pattern, the foot, right, left, making sure that the right foot lines up with the left foot, and then adding the dynamics, changing the orchestration, changing the leading hand, and then using that group of four with the hands and the 2 feet as the turnaround. So then we put all of those together with a click, and you can practice that for hours, just improving all those things, the dynamics, the orchestration, and the sound, and being super comfortable. And then, of course, raising the tempo. And also playing slow tempos. This is really difficult to play at slow tempos, to get the 2 feet to be wide enough apart to sound nice and not be too squashed. So I'll demonstrate a couple of different tempos with the click. A couple of things to note when you're practicing these things. You can turn these things into endurance builders, especially with the one I like to practice is the one where the 2 feet are on the one, or the first foot is on the one and the hands are on the upbeat. And just going up and down the toms in a repetitive fashion, so between 3 toms or 4 toms up and down at higher tempos. It'll solidify that thing of playing the double on the quarter note with the left foot. And also your right foot just generally will get a great workout playing that double at higher tempos, and making sure that you really get a solid sound from the bass drum and the hands, that it's nice and matched. And the other thing is, through practicing these things, the 2 hands, 2 feet, and putting the 4 in for the changeover, orchestrating around the drums, involving dynamics, etc. For long periods, you'll stumble across little phrases that you like, repetitive phrases that are short or long or whatever. And you can then, memorize them, and they'll become new pieces of vocab. So I came across a couple when I was doing those demonstrations. One of them was this, with using the 4. Another one was using a crossover, right, left, foot, left, right, foot. Another one was playing the 4, but splitting it between 2 drums, the 10 and 12 and the 12 and 14. So I did 2 4s and then 1 2. So you'll stumble across little phrases that you like, and that's a great thing about practicing these vocab things for long periods based upon improvising, because you'll teach yourself new things rather than transcribing something or learning something by rote and having it as a go-to fill for 2 beats or another fill that you use for a whole bar. So I'll demonstrate a couple of things now where you can play a groove, and then maybe you're going into a 1-bar fill, 2-bar fill, 1-beat fill, whatever it is, and you'll be able to just improvise something based around the hand and foot combinations in 16th notes, because you'll be so comfortable with all the combinations, switching from any combination to any other combination, which is what we're going to get to next week. Your technique will be able to handle playing higher tempos if that's the tempo of the song, rather than trying to imagine how it's going to sound or can I play it that fast. You won't have to worry about any of that if you practice this a lot. So now I'll give a couple of examples of some groove and fill ideas where I'm just going into the fill, improvising. I don't really know what I'm going to play.